Hey everyone, let's start digging into Microsoft Access. But first things first, I hope everyone is healthy, has everything set up and ready to roll. And yes, please let me know if I can assist you in any way. I want to be super flexible to make sure that you can be successful in this course. So, with that in mind, let me go through the Access Module 1 chapter so that you're able to do your very first assignment in Access. First thing, you will need a PC, not a Mac, because Microsoft Access can be only installed on a PC. So ask around, see whose PC you can use, and you can download it from our announcements page in Canvas if you don't have Microsoft Access on a PC. So let me tell you about what we'll be creating. We're going to make a database. You run into databases all the time. Every time you go to Walmart or Food Lion or Kroger's, when you find an item, it always has that little QR code on the back, the product code that when you scan it, it tells you what that product is. What's happening is it's going out to a database, finding the corresponding price and information and everything for your receipt so that you're charged correctly. But by the time you're 18 years old, your name is probably already on 1,000 different databases. So let me tell you about the database we're going to create, because every job you're going to be using a database to quote your hours or anything that you're doing. So we're going to make something called right here the Canis Major Felis Veterinarian. We're just going to call it CMF Vets. So I want you to imagine this veterinarian place where you would take your cats and dogs, and we're going to build a database. And here's what's going to be in the database. We are going to build an owners table. Who are the owners? Like you and I. And we can have multiple pets, by the way. You might have a dog and 2 cats. And there are patients table. A patients table are actually the dogs and the cats, and they're really cool names. And we have the appointments table for when your dog and cat are going to come in, and all the different treatments that we're going to give. So I want you to imagine a feline rabies shot and a dog rabies shot, and your pet getting microchipped or heartworm or spayed and neutered. You get the idea. And there, we have a couple of vets working, so we have the veterinarians table. So this is all the information. So how do we get this information into the computer? Well, we're going to use Microsoft Access. So come to the bottom left-hand corner of your Windows PC, type in Access, and here it is right here, Access App. It's got a big A. So we click right there, and we're going to start with a blank database. And as soon as we click blank database, something kind of odd happens compared to anything else we've done in this class. It's asking us to name it first. We usually don't save until we're done with the, project for the day, but here we are saving it at the beginning. Why? Well, Access is going to save as we type because there's a lot more data in Access. So if you look at your book or you look at your first project, you're going to call it capital C, capital M as in Mary, F, put a space, and put the word vets. So CMF Vets, and let's go ahead and hit create. It's going to create and set up our database, and notice it's saved up there in Microsoft Access. Now I just showed you how to open and create a fresh Access file, but I want to make sure that while you're doing this project that you're also getting your assignment done, which your first one is Access Module 1, your SAM textbook project. So let me show you how to open this up so that you're able to get started right here. So I have opened your first assignment, and like any other, you always must open the starter file. So right here, it says click that starter file. So what we're going to do is from the very beginning, open this up, enable your content, and to get that first table done, we're going to hit create table, and we'll pick up here in the next video. You will not see grading info table on mine the rest of the videos, just to keep it just like the book. But from here on out, you will use your project. And don't forget, you can start and stop that video as we go. Let's continue. Hey, so I've turned off the video so you can focus on what we're learning here. So first, what we're going to do in Microsoft Access is to create the owner's table. So who owns these pets? We're going to ask for an owner ID. An ID is going to be considered short text, even though it's going to be a number like owner, A56 or something, just because we're going to use a combination of letters and numbers. We're going to want their first name, their last name, where they live, phone number, and so forth. So what we're going to ultimately see here is what the field size is going to be. Field size is how many characters might be typed in. So let me give you an example. The owner's street, we're going to allow a lot of space. Let's say 255, just in case they have a really long street name, and 50 characters for their first and last name. So let me show you how we're going to get started here. Let's go back into Microsoft Access. We're going to double click on table 1. It creates this one table for us so far. We haven't really named it yet, but first thing is I already have a field here called ID, but if you remember from over here, I want to call it owner ID. So let's rename that. So I'm going to come over here to ID, click in that gray area, right click my mouse, and come on down into rename field, and let's call it owner ID. Hit the enter key. And notice it's already trying to go to the second field, but I'm not done with owner ID. So let me click back on owner ID. I'm going to go back to our instructions. It says make this short text with a field size of 5. And if you notice right here, it says make sure it's the primary key and there should be a caption. So let's talk about that. I'm going to go back here and I'm back clicked on owner ID. So first, I'm going to come up to the ribbon. I'm under the Fields tab up here. I want to change the data type into a short text. I don't want it to be auto number. Auto number is like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And after I set up as a short text, I want to tell it how many characters. And if you remember, we're going to be doing 5 characters. So let's come over here to field size and make this 5. And let me just give you some best practices while you're watching this video. The best way to do this is to have Access open on your computer, stop and start the video, and keep going as I keep going, so that way you can understand how to create this. It's better to do instead of just watching me do this. Now, we also, on this particular one, want to make sure after we change the field size that we have a name and caption for this one. So I'm going to click name and caption. If you remember over here, we want the description to be unique identifier of pet owner. So I'm going to copy that real quick. Come over here, put that as my description. And I'm going to put a shorter owner ID. And what I want to shortcut it is just the caption should be OID. So let me copy that. Come over here and make that my caption. And notice right now it says owner ID where I'm pointing, but as soon as I type a new caption and hit OK, it makes it a little bit shorter. So I've got that first one set up. Let's do some more. Let's now create the 9 other fields for my owner table right here. So we're going to go from owner, first name, short text. Notice all of these are going to be short text, and here are their field sizes. So to add my next one, I'm going to click where it says click to add. I'm going to pick short text. My first one is, well, technically second one is owner, first name. So I know who they are. I hit enter, click back on it right here, owner, first name. And I'm going to change the field size on this one, as they told me, to 50. Notice it already says short text up here. Now my field size is 50. I'll hit enter. Let's do the next one. I click to add. I pick short text and pick owner, last name, hit enter. Click back on owner last name. The short text is already set right there. Let me also now change the size to 50. Hit enter. Click to add again. Short text. Now I'm going to do owner, street address. We're going to give them a lot more space on this one. So when I hit enter and click back on owner street address, I'm going to leave this one at 255 for short text. Next, I'll click to add, do short text again, pick owner, city, hit enter, click back on owner city. My field size on this one is going to be 50, hit enter. Click to add our next one. It's going to be short text. This one is going to be where the owner state is. Now, important on this one. After I hit enter, click back on owner state, I want to make the field size 2 and hit enter, but let me explain why 2. Obviously, the word Virginia is a lot more than 2 letters. What we're trying to get them to do is by telling the field size, I know you're already thinking of it, is the abbreviation. So capital V, capital A for Virginia. Hey, let's keep on going. After owner state, let's do owner postal code. We'll make it short text. Owner postal code. And I know what you're maybe thinking. You're like, Professor Corinne, owner postal code, shouldn't that be a number value, not text? We're not going to have this as a number unless we can use it as a mathematical value. For example, CVCC's postcode is 24502. Yeah, that's a number, but we're never going to use it mathematically. We're not going to add it, subtract it, multiply it. So here's our rule in a database. If you're not going to use it mathematically, keep it as a short text. But we are going to come here and put the owner postal code as a field size of 9. You're like, 9? We're going to do those first 5 digits like we typically do in a zip code, like 24502, but then have the 4 extra digits that I actually identify your street and house if you didn't know that. Hey, let's go to the next one. Click to add. We're going to do short text again. We're going to do, in this case, the home phone of our owner here. So home phone, hit enter. We are going to, once again, make this size 25 for our field size. And we're going to do a mobile phone. Nowadays, most people, it's the same, but we're going to go with it. So mobile phone, hit enter, click back on mobile phone, type in 25 for the field size. And last but not least, we're going to do an email address as short text. We're going to type email. By the way, email is one word. There's not a dash in it. Address, hit enter, click back on email address. We're going to make that 50 just in case they have a really long email address. Let's hit enter. Now that we have our table structure set up, we want to name our table so we remember what it's called. So let's save this table by hitting the X right here. And it says, hey, do you want to save changes to the design of table 1? I don't want to call this table 1. So yes, I do, but I'm going to switch the name right here to the name owners with an S. Go ahead and click OK now. And notice over here, we have this saved as owners. Let me show you what this does, by the way. Do you see this little shutter bar with the 2 left arrows? If you click that, it will collapse it. And if you click it again, it opens it back up. It's still there. Before we finish up this first video, I do want to do one other item. Let's reopen the owner's table. Double click right here. Everything is still set up in our structure. I'm going to click right here to go to view. Right now, we're in something called Data Sheet View. Data Sheet View is where you can see the names of the fields and any data that we put in sooner or later. But there's a second view called the Design View. What the Design View does right here, it kind of shows me where you can easily view the fields, the data types, and properties. First of all, to ensure you've entered them all correctly, and it's also easier to determine things like primary key and later validation. Let me explain primary key. Everybody look at this owner ID, short text, unique identifier of pet owner. Everybody look right here. Do you see this little yellow key? It's really tiny, right where I'm pointing, right there. So what this really indicates is this. It's called the primary key. Microsoft Access sets one automatically, but if you ever want to move it, you could click on another field and set the primary key. So what is this primary key and why is it so important? It is really probably the most important thing we learn in the first module. I want you to imagine that here at CVCC, we probably have several students with identical names. In fact, I grew up in Miami, Florida. We had 3 girls in my senior class in Miami, Florida that were named Maria Cristina Fernan. It's like the most common name in Miami. Well, would you understand that if a lot of people have the same name, it's easy to get their transcripts and grades mixed up. In high school, we used to call one the smart Maria Cristina, one the wild Maria Cristina, and one the not so bright Maria Cristina. Well, the really, really smart Maria Cristina went to Harvard, and guess whose grades they accidentally sent? The not so bright Maria. In fact, I don't think she ever graduated. So, do you see how things can get mixed up? So, ever since the 90s and when databases got set up, they decided that they would take one field in every table, at least one field, and set it as the unique identifier or primary key. Here's what that means. No 2 people can have the same owner ID. And we see these unique primary keys in tons of different examples in the real world. For example, when you get a job, you get a social security number, which is unique to you. And that's really your primary key. So we don't mess up the amount that you pay in taxes and social security later on. Here at CVCC, we actually have a primary key that's your student ID. No 2 students can have the same ID. Now, you wouldn't want it to be your first name or last name set to the primary key because do you see that it's possible that 2 students have the same name? So we want to make sure that this is set to the primary key, and it is. But later, when we start to add data, if we try to put in 2 identical owner IDs, it's going to fuss at us and say, no. We want to make sure every database has a table that has a unique identifier so no 2 things or items or people get messed up. We'll pick up there in the next video. Let me just close this owner's table right here and we'll come back.